Find out what's happening on the Voice America Talk Radio Network. Find out about new shows, featured guests, and what's up this week. Find us on Facebook by searching keyword Voice America.
The following program is being brought to you on the Voice America Business Channel. For more information about our network and to check our additional show hosts and topics of interest, please visit voiceamericabusiness.com. The Voice America Talk Radio Network is the worldwide leader in live Internet talk radio. Visit voiceamerica.com. The views and ideas expressed on the following program are strictly those of the host or guests and do not necessarily reflect the views and ideas held by the Voice America Talk Radio Network, its staff, and management.
There are entrepreneurs that are making so much more than profit in their enterprises. They are creating businesses that really add value to others, and so can you. Welcome to Be More, Achieve More, Inspiration for the Entrepreneurial Mind with Chris Cooper. If you're looking for ways to develop your entrepreneurial spirit while you contribute to a better world, you'll want to stay tuned for the next hour. Now, here's your host, Chris Cooper.
Hi there, this is Chris Cooper of BeMoreAchieveMore.com. I hope you're having a good week. It's wet over here in the United Kingdom at the moment. If you're sitting somewhere sunny, then I wish I was with you. Firstly, just like to sort of say that over the last couple of weeks, we've had shows on how to present confidently with Alan Stevens and Paul Dutoit, which had lots of great feedback. So if you've not listened to that, I would have a listen. And also, we talked about confidence with Ailey Milnes. And what I wanted to do, because I think confidence is such an important theme, is to continue that theme for a third show with how to master self-image. Now, during my research for this show, I found in Wikipedia a simple definition of a person's self-image, which was your answer really to this question. So listen to this question. What do you believe people think about you? Now, my understanding of self-image is therefore that it's something that can be established by what people can visibly sort of see about you, judge us on, and our own experiences and judgments, what we take on board. And these judgments, they can begin in childhood. Well, they clearly do. For example, I had a belief that I was uncoordinated and poor at sport. This came from my parents' and friends' comments about me and judgments I made as a young child on the soccer field. However, as I found later in life, this self-image was actually incorrect. I could run long distances very well. I was far from uncoordinated when it came to racket sports. I'm very coordinated when it comes to playing the guitar now. My childhood belief, however, did affect my self-image. And it meant that I always felt as a child, not just outside of being one of the cool ones at school, someone on the periphery. And it took me a while to build that self-image up, I think, over time. Now, what is clear is that how we perceive our self-image and how others choose to treat and perceive us has an incredible impact on our success in business and in life. It can have an enormous impact on sales results. I know when I'm training salespeople that the level of self-image can almost be correlated really to their sales achievement. And also greatly impacts confidence to drive careers and drive businesses to significant levels. So in the show, I'm delighted to have self-image expert Darrell Knoch on the show. Now, Darrell transformed his life from a very difficult, abusive childhood with an understandably low self-image to a very high-flying entrepreneur, investor, real estate authority, coach, financier, and author. Over 35 years, Darrell has taken 5 companies to national and international levels, and he's gone on to see them generate billions of dollars in revenue. He's the author of Mastering a Healthy Self-Image, the guidebook to real happiness and enormous success, and he's the creator of gratitude coins, which have had much publicity in the United States. I'm sure he'll tell us a little bit about those later. There are few better people, therefore, to talk about this subject with me today, so I'd just like to welcome Darrell Knoch.
Hey, Chris, thank you so much.
How are you today?
I am awesome. How about you?
Awesome. I am fantastic, thank you. So good to have you on the show. And I think maybe we could start, Darrell, by asking you the question, I've given you what I saw as a definition of self-image. I wonder how you define it. I'm also interested to ask you, I see the words self-esteem and confidence used almost interchangeably. I wonder if these are the same thing or not. Can you help us?
Sure. Well, I believe that they have some similarity, but self-esteem, self-image is how you perceive yourself, how good you feel about you. And self-confidence really is a little bit different in that self-confidence is how much ability do you have to take on projects, to take on whatever challenge there is. And so, your self-confidence really relates to your ability to take action. And self-esteem is how well you like yourself.
So is self-esteem the same as self-image then, or is that something different?
I believe that they are fairly interchangeable. You could debate maybe a little bit of the difference, but I think they're pretty much one and the same. Your self-confidence, your self-esteem, and your self-image really truly is how you believe in yourself.
And does that therefore is there a process here then, Darrell? Does self-image then drive confidence?
Without a doubt, the better you feel about yourself, the more you've raised your self-esteem and your self-image, the higher your confidence level will go.
Great. So I can see the link between those. So if we use the word self-esteem then and self-image, we're using those interchangeably in the interview as potentially the same thing. I wonder, why do you think then self-image is just so essential to achieving, really great success in business and in life?
Well, if you don't have a good self-esteem, that means you're not going to have self-confidence. And so where are you going to draw your ability to really find the depth of energy in order to take you past the challenges in life that come up? Because no matter what we do, anything great requires that we overcome challenges. And if we don't have self-esteem and we don't have self-confidence, we won't take on those projects and we won't overcome those challenges and we won't be anywhere near as successful because we don't have that self-esteem and that self-confidence.
Is this in achieving great success in business and life then? I mean, what is there a percentage that you can attribute to self-image or self-esteem? Is it the lion's share of it? I mean,
well, I believe that it is. I believe that self-esteem and self-confidence are the foundation stones of any greatness in life. And if you don't have it, a fact of life here in the U.S. is that 95% of every American will die broke, living on a fixed income that is really not much of a fixed income. And so, as we go through life every day, you see how proud do you walk when you're walking down the street? So, do you have a great smile on your face? Do you exude that self-confidence and that feeling of knowing that you can do anything in life? And, a lot of people, when you see them, they really don't exude that. And they do a lot of things to themselves. They do a lot of things to their life that, unfortunately, no one sets out to die broke. But the unfortunate fact is 95% of us do. Mm. So we really do have to change the way we react with ourselves and we react to the world.
Mm. So I guess the ideal is to die not with wealth, but also die with wealth and being happy and adding value. I guess it's having it all.
We have to have some prosperity in life, and because if we don't have some prosperity, that really degrades our self-esteem and our self-confidence.
we'll go over to a commercial break. I shall be back again with Darrell Knoch in a few moments. Hi, this is Chris Cooper of BeMoreAchieveMore.com and CC1Consulting.com, and I'm afraid we just lost Darrell before the break there, but we're all back again online, so let's continue with the show, and me ask you, Darrell, we were talking about kind of self-image, and we're talking about, moved on to things like being prosperous, etc. But I think maybe if I could ask you now, how do we actually form that self-image from your perspective?
Well, no one is born with all of everything they need to have a unstoppable self-esteem and self-confidence. So it's something we all have to build. And so the more we work towards building that, the better we're going to find our life and our accomplishments in life. And so, number one, what you have to do is you have to make a decision. I am going to become a different person. I am going to raise my self-esteem, and I am going to take the steps necessary. You know, a lot of times we don't decide. We don't make that definitive connection of saying, yes, this is where I'm going. So number one is decide. Then number two is you've got to educate the living daylights out of yourself. You know, if you're really going to be successful, and everybody has their different idea of what success is. I was speaking to a young lady yesterday, and we were talking about, her 3 children, raising them with really healthy self-esteem, really having a great attitude in life, and really being happy about themselves is her level of success. So, educate yourself about what it is that is going to be your level of success, but also educate yourself on how do you build a self-esteem. One of the things I did was I spent hours and hours and hours listening to cassette tapes early on in my life. And, I mentioned to you earlier that I literally listened to cassette tapes on raising my self-esteem and self-confidence 24 hours a day for about 10 years. I really became intense about it. And so bringing that education into your life of what steps you should be doing. And then, number 3 is you got to change the way you talk to yourself. We all have had so much negativity in our life that we do some things and we say to ourselves, well, that was stupid. And, that's just not going to serve you well to be saying things like that to yourself. And so one of the things that I made up that I really felt helped me a lot, but I give this card out to people all the time, and it really, I have a lot of people tell me that it'd make a big difference in their life. And this card simply says, I like myself, I love my life, I'm excited, I'm happy, I'm healthy, and I add brightness to the life of everyone I meet. And so, having that on your mirror and having those kinds of self-talk really changes the way you perceive yourself. And number 4 is start learning to smile. Consciously think more times a day that you're going to smile, because every time you smile, your body releases endorphins. It makes you feel good, but also every time you smile, someone else sees you smile and it impacts them. And every time you positively impact another human being, then you know that you feel better yourself because you helped another person feel better. And the number 5 is dress up more. Polish your shoes, trim your hair, clean your office up, rearrange a little bit, maybe rearrange your furniture in your house, do a variety of things that make you proud. And, the more you do of those things, the more it raises your self-esteem. And number 6 is make a victory list. Make a list of some of the most proud moments of your life. What did you do? How much detail can you put in there of how you felt did you get goosebumps when you felt that proud? What was it that you did? How did you do it? What really were the things that made you proud of it? And the more detail you have in those variety of things that you make a list, the more that when you have a down day, you can go back to that victory list and you can relive the excitement of those things that really made you proud. And those kinds of things, as well as many more, can really start making a dramatic change in your self-esteem and your life.
Great. So this is really how to master then our self-image. Is it? So these are the steps to take.
It absolutely is. If you once you've made that conscious decision and you start taking those steps, you start reading every day, you start changing the way you think. When you catch yourself making a statement that's not positive, you say, how could I change the way that I say that to myself? And the more consciousness that you put into the effort, the more you start to really do it by your subconscious just takes over. The more times you say to yourself, I like myself, I love my life, I'm excited, I'm happy, I'm healthy, I add brightness to the life of everyone I meet, the more it drives that into your subconscious, and the more it becomes a habit pattern that you do without even thinking.
So something like self-image, I see as being something that unless you go through a process like this continuously, it can be quite sticky. It can be, as you say, a formed habit. So really, what I'm seeing through this process is that what you're doing is you are making this fundamental decision, but you're educating yourself and filling yourself with positivity through the kind of recordings and the education you're listening to. So I guess maybe we should talk about it. It's probably some things that we should actually avoid listening and absorbing ourselves with 24 hours a day.
Without a doubt. And I know that I'm not always thought of as an exciting way when I mention some of these things, but if you're watching too much television and all the negativity that's on the television, you got to turn it off, because what you're doing is you're allowing a lot of negativity in your life, and you're the only person that can choose to allow that negativity into your life and into your mind. And, if you're associating with friends that really don't have the best habit patterns, they're not really going the places in life that you want to be going. Sometimes you have to change the friends that you have. And, sometimes that's not always the easiest thing to do. You've had a friend for a long time, you may have grown up with them, and they're not going anywhere in life. They have that negative outlook on life, and sometimes you have to limit the amount of time that you let that person. And this is not a real popular statement either, but if your family is really negative, sometimes you have to limit the amount of time that you spend with your family in the effort to change and get your foundation built of raising your self-esteem.
And that can be quite hard, can't it? Particularly if you have a family that maybe don't look on the bright side as much as you do. So just I'm also interested in you have this card, this affirmation card. I like myself, I love my life, happy, healthy. I have brightness to the life everyone I meet. Would you recommend that? And I know you give that card away to people, don't you?
I do.
Is that now? That's a great statement. Would you recommend that people use that, or would you recommend that they craft their own?
I think they should do both. I think this is a great statement that really builds a foundation for someone, and so. I tell people that if they go out to my website and request it, we'll send them this affirmation coin for free. And so but not only should you be saying this, because this builds a great foundation for yourself, but you should craft your own, so that excuse me, when you have some things that you want to be particularly focused on, you should be saying those specific things to yourself so that you focus on that as well as building this foundation.
So tell us about those you just mentioned there, the gratitude coins. Are they something with that stamped on them? What are they?
Well, excuse me. I about 7 years ago, I developed a gratitude coin, and I developed it just for myself. I was looking at my life, and I said, I've had a lot of challenges in my life. I've overcome a lot of adversity, but I've gotten to the point where I built an incredible life. But I keep saying to myself every day, I'm not as happy as I could be, and as soon as I reach this level of success here, then that's when my happiness and my contentment will really be there. And then when I'd reach that level of life, I'd say, okay, well, but here's the level that will really give me the happiness and contentment of life. And I said, you know what? You've got to stop that. You've got to stop saying that tomorrow is the day I'm going to be happy when I've reached this level of success. And you've got to start living in today. You've got to be excited and happy about today in order to have the excitement and, as Tony Robbins would say, the juice of life. So I was driving home one night, and I pulled over to the side of the road, and I designed this coin that says gratitude coin on one side, and on the other side it says I am grateful for. And so I thought, I'm going to touch this every day, and this is going to be my grounding point of saying you really have the ability to define your satisfaction in life, and this gratitude coin is going to be that tangible piece that's going to bring you back and remind you every day to be more grateful. And so as soon as I designed that coin, I said, you know what, I can touch the world with this coin also, because if I am always thinking about what tomorrow is going to bring rather than living in today, I think other people probably have that challenge as well. And so I started giving that gratitude coin out about 7 years ago. And in the last 7 years, I've given out more than 18,000 gratitude coins. So I really feel like I am helping the world learn to be more grateful. And I tell people, I say, this coin has magic in it. If you touch it every day, it reminds you to be more grateful. Being more grateful makes you a happier person. Being a happier person changes your life. And if you want the magic, you got to touch it every day.
Fantastic. It's a great, so it acts as an anchor.
Absolutely. I believe that we all have so many anchors in our life, some that are positive, some that are negative. And every time we use those anchors, they either pull us into a positive state of mind or they pull us into a negative state of mind. And so I use the gratitude coin to pull me into a really positive state of mind.
Fantastic. I like the concept of learning to smile more often, and maybe the coin can help you do that too. But I thought it was a good idea, this idea about dressing up more and changing your appearance and maybe polishing your shoes and just doing, something different.
Well, if we're going to make a decision to be different, then we've got to do some activities each day that really are different than what we've done in the past. I know it's an old saying, it's been used so many times, but it really truly has a lot of profoundness in that if you're doing the same things that you've always done, then how would you ever expect to get different results? If you want different results, you've got to take some different actions. And if you want some really greatness out of yourself, you got to take massive action in order to become a different human being.
Yeah. Can't keep on doing the same thing, can you? Else you'll get the same results. A good point. And also this idea of the victory list. I think this is a powerful thing to do to identify all those things that have gone well in your life, and I guess that's being grateful for them as well. I just wanted to share something that a colleague, a friend of mine, David Heiner, who we've had on this show before, where David showed me a big kind of scrapbook that he has of all the positive, achievements. And he's had many in his life, and the wonderful testimonials and notes people have written. And, if you ever have any moments of doubt, that's an amazing resource to go back to. So I was reminded of that last week and started working on mine, because it is a very positive document to have. Do you have anything like that?
One of the things that happens, I do. I really believe that when you go back to that victory list, when there was a really popular video and book that came out called The Secret.
Yes.
And one of the things that was in The Secret was they called it now I just forgot, but I guess a dream board, where they literally would have a cork board type of thing, and you put all of your dreams, all of your things that you really wanted to accomplish in life. You put those on that board, and you have that, you see that, that way every day you're reminding yourself. Your subconscious starts driving you in the direction of, they call it a vision board.
Yes.
And so very similar to the book that you mentioned, that your friend told you about, very similar to some of the things that you mentioned to me that you've been doing to put your victory list, your book, your vision board together. That really truly drives all of that into your subconscious, and in it, your subconscious starts leading you in the direction of all of the things that you focus on every day.
Yeah, that's great. There are kind of software programs and things that you can buy to clip images in and hold them on your computer, and those are good. I have to be honest, I found it easier just having it on a board that I stick on the wall, or some series of PowerPoint slides that I've stuck up on the wall and are visible to me most days. So well worth doing. Great. Well,
you mentioned earlier that one of the things you do is you have photographs of your children, and every time you look at them, it helps you smile. And what a great focus to have. Your family, your wife, your children. If you're focusing on that, you're going to build a better life for your wife and your children.
Great stuff. Well, we're going to go to a commercial break again right now, and I shall be back again with Darrell Knoch in a few moments. Hi, this is Chris Cooper of BeMoreAchieveMore.com, and apologies if you've experienced some little technical difficulties this afternoon with Skype, which is amazing technology, but just occasionally it doesn't operate as we'd ideally like it. But we are still grateful for it. So I'd like to sort of move on. I'm with Darrell Knoch at the moment, and Darrell, what I think would be really interesting now, if we could move on to, we've talked about self-image, and you shared with us some great steps to help master it. And I think it would be really interesting to, if you could share with us your sort of background for context, and maybe tell us about your personal journey from, I know it was a very challenging childhood, to how you built up your self-esteem and achieved some of the things that you achieved.
Well, I'd be glad to, Chris. I'm the youngest of 7 children. My father left home and left my mother with 7 children to raise, and so because of that, I'm 57. I'll be 58 in a few months, and back then my mother had a 9th grade education, so she really didn't have an education or skill set that would allow her to make enough money to take care of 7 children, and so we were on welfare. And we literally, because we were on welfare that many years ago, we lived in the projects of Chicago. And so that wasn't necessarily the best place to raise 7 children, but my mother did the best she could. But at 1 year of age, I started running out toward the road, and my older sister, who was 11 at the time, she came running after me, and she tripped on the sidewalk, and she fell and she landed on the back of my head, and she crushed my face into the cement. And at 1 year of age, your bone is not very rigid, so it literally crushed my bone and crushed my face, and so I grew up with a crushed face. We didn't have any money to be able to get that fixed, and so that really was difficult. Being a young boy in the ghetto of Chicago, starting to grow up, kids were no kinder back then than they are today, and I got a lot of harassment about having a crushed face, and so that was the start of being on welfare, not having a lot of resources, but then also having a crushed face. It really, I had a terrible self-esteem, and I had to overcome all of that, and so that really helped me. It helped me give me a lot of drive, though. With I had the opportunity to say to myself, I'm going to show everybody that I can be someone, I am someone, and I'm going to really go somewhere in life to show everybody that even though I have this crushed face, I can be someone that does some great things in life. So it did give me a lot of drive.
So I mean, was there a particular moment when suddenly that became clear? Was there something that sparked that imagination, that that drive?
Well, my mother told me always, she would always say to me, you're a very special child. You've got some special circumstances, but that makes you a special child. And so that gave me some of a foundation. But the more kids would joke with me, the more burning inside of me that it would give me to say, I'm going to grow up to be someone, so that I was doing it for the wrong reasons potentially, but I just had this burning. I was going to grow up to be someone so I could show those people that my face did not define me, that it was me and my heart that really defined me and where I could go in my life. And so at age 22, though, my oldest brother gave me a set of Zig Ziglar tapes. And although I had the drive before, I didn't really have the tools, the knowledge in an effort to be able to really change my life. And when my oldest brother gave me those set of Zig Ziglar tapes, I really immersed myself in that, and that was the beginning of really changing my life and taking me on the path to greatness.
Mm. Yes, very powerful. Some of those Zig Ziglar tapes. So you listen to these Zig Ziglar tapes, and I mean, what at the age of 22 did you sort of get through college, or did you start working and then sort of go from there?
Well, growing up with the background and the lack of funds, I worked and went to college at the same time. I had a really great opportunity. I got a job as a computer operator. It was an on-the-job training job, and so I learned on the job as I was going. But I worked from 2:00 in the afternoon till 10:00 at night. It was a second shift, and so that allowed me to work a full-time job and go to college during the day. And then, when I'd come home from my job at 10:00, I'd usually study till maybe midnight, and then I'd be back up and going back to school again. And then weekends, of course, I studied a lot. And so that allowed me to do both, have a full-time job and go to college. So I kind of a joke, but I was really, I really studied and majored in a really great career path. I majored in music, and I didn't I didn't use that all that much in my career path, but fortunately I minored in business, and so that really became the career path that I took, was following my business passion.
Mm. So you went to follow your business passion. What point did you start setting up your own businesses?
Well, I mean, you can look at it in a couple of different ways, but, my real first business was when I was 14. Because we were poor, we had to take care of a lot of things ourselves. So I learned how, I kind of, as I was growing up, I mowed the lawn at my home, but I also, we had a used lawnmower, and it always was needing some repair. There was always something I needed to do to it. So I learned how to repair that lawnmower. And at 14, I went down to a local service station that was a few blocks away from our house, and I talked the owner of the service station into letting me come in after school and repair lawnmowers. So that was my first business. I contracted him to use a piece of his service station, one of his bays, and I repaired lawnmowers there, and then I just paid him a sort of rent each month for that bay, and I had a lawnmower repair business at 14, but at age 24, I started a manufacturing company. I had a mechanical background. I had, I'm always been a daydreamer. All my life I've been a daydreamer, and I like to daydream. I tell people I think dreaming is the starting point of all greatness. And so I had daydreamed up this idea for a product, and I literally started making it in my basement at age 24. And then by 27, we've grown to the point where we had a manufacturing facility, and we were at the point by 28 and 29, I had products in almost every major retail outlet in the United States at that time.
Wow. So was it the Zig Ziglar tapes that made the difference? Because I would imagine, from the background that you described with the 7 children coming from living in the projects area of Chicago. I've been to Chicago, but I haven't been to the projects area. And not having good income, but it's, 24, there you are with a business with products that you've created in retail stores around the US. I mean, a lot of people would still be feeling a bit sorry for themselves at 24.
Well, I really believe that, the Zig Ziglar tapes were the starting point and really, dramatic effect on my life. I listened to those set of Zig Ziglar tapes. Like I mentioned, I listened to them 24 hours a day. Starting with Zig Ziglar, but I went on to Brian Tracy, Dennis Waitley, Tony Robbins, Earl Nightingale, you name it, I listened to it. There's a great book called Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. I have read that book many, many times. I can't even tell you how many times I've read that book, but I really started on a journey of educating myself and getting every possible viewpoint that I could. Anybody that was writing or speaking something about how to become great in your life, I was reading or listening to it. Or I've seen Zig Ziglar in person more than 50 times. I've seen Tony Robbins in person several times. One of the things Tony Robbins does is he, during the first night, they lay out a whole bunch of 12-foot lines of hot coals, and people take their shoes off and walk barefoot across those hot coals in an effort to say, if I can do this, I can do anything. And I've done that several times. And I did everything I could do to grow as a human being.
Great. Great advice there. We've got about 2 minutes until we go into commercial break. I'm just kind of wondering, what should we do as, maybe employers if we are interviewing people who have a low self-image? I mean, how can we assess that?
Well, you can assess that by looking at how does someone hold themselves? How many times in your interview do they smile? What kinds of things do they say to you? I get very personal with people, and I literally ask them, you know, how do you perceive yourself? What are some of your greatest strengths? And you know, uh, do you feel like you have any things that are not your greatest strength? And the answers that they give you will they'll start to tell you how they feel about themselves. And one of the things I always do is I always say, what's your thoughts about taking some of your own personal time to grow as a human being? If I provide you with some material, would you commit to taking some of your personal time to listen to that material, to read that material, to grow as a human being? And the enthusiasm that they say yes with will tell you, is this a good potential hire or not?
I think that's a really good point, because you could dismiss people at that stage, but actually you could also, there's maybe a great opportunity to help them. And I think what you've just described there is very, very worthy, to offer them an option, and also see how they respond to it, because some people won't respond to it, will they? And we're going to go to commercial break right now. We'll be back again in a few moments and find out about how we can maybe push past our comfort levels when we're building our self-image, how to actually do that. We'll be back again with you in a couple of minutes. Hi, this is Chris Cooper of BeMoreAchieveMore.com and CC1Consulting.com. I'm with Darrell Knoch, and we talked about self-image and kind of what it is, and also some steps to kind of master it. Then we heard a bit from Darrell about his background and his experiences from a very challenging background, and somewhere at 24, some of the amazing things that he'd already started to achieve. And I was kind of interested now we also chatted at the end about maybe when we're recruiting people, what we should think about self-image. And I think it would be helpful now to just have a conversation before we finish about building other people's self-image, and maybe also then about how we can push across those kind of areas where we're feeling maybe gripped with fear or feeling uncomfortable, to enable us to build that self-image even further. So I'm going to start with the question, Darrell. How can we help in building maybe the self-image of our team, and also I think probably about our partners and our children who might be lacking in self-esteem?
Well, the number one thing that I really feel is the answer to that question is, the greater your self-esteem, the more you live that life, the more you're going to project that to others. And so I've always said that a great leader leads by example. A great parent leads by example. You can't just say to someone, here's the things that you should do, but then you're not following those same types of steps, because people learn by what they see. That, studies have shown that your children, your employees, they follow your example that you lead by. And if you say something to them that you want them to be doing or working towards, but yet you're not living that example, you're not going to get the results that you're looking for. So lead by example, live that message, really enhance your own self-esteem. And as you're doing that, your children, your employees, they'll see what you're doing and they'll follow suit. They'll follow your example.
It's kind of infectious, isn't it? Sort of be the best you can be, and then other people around you start to want to be the best they can be as well. So how important is sort of pushing past our comfort levels when it comes to building self-image? I think you mentioned it earlier, because we all feel sometimes, we all want to feel comfortable with ourselves. But I also kind of wonder, when in pushing past the comfort zone, is that maybe sometimes, or for some people, actually being comfortable might to them be a form of success. Am I explaining myself clearly?
Well, you are, and you're right. We all get stuck in what we feel is very comfortable, what we've learned to do we're comfort level at that point. And I really believe that if we are going to achieve greatness in life, that we have to push past those comfort levels. We have to start working towards even though we want to be grateful for where we're at, but we want to push past those comfort levels. We want to work to learn, to achieve more, to be more, and to really find the greatness within ourselves. And so a great way to start pushing past those comfort levels, let's say that I talk to a lot of people that have a fear of speaking to others in a crowd or maybe on stage. And so, one of the things I tell people is how you push past those comfort levels, and take away the fear of where you're going to go in that particular scenario is just start small. Do one small little thing. An example I use is if you go to a lake or you go somewhere that you're thinking about going swimming, you rarely just walk in, no matter whether you know what the water temperature is. Most people just don't just dive in and then find out that the water is freezing cold. They always just put their toe in the water and they test the temperature of the water, and then they decide how much they're going to jump in. And so in life, that's the same way. You have to push past your comfort levels. You have to learn that new set of skills is you start with something very small. And so if you want to, let's say that you want to learn how to speak in front of people, but you're afraid of that makes you uncomfortable. So you do small things to start doing that. Maybe just start thinking about it as you're talking to another person, and you start talking to them like you're going to be on stage. And then you start talking to two people. You gather two people and start talking to two people about whatever that subject is. And just, maybe then get to the point, maybe try speaking on stage with one person listening to you. Maybe it's your spouse, maybe it's your friend. And you start just doing little baby steps. And the more you do those little baby steps, and then you increase those baby steps, then you all of a sudden, before you know it, you found that you're very comfortable speaking in front of bigger crowds, and then to the point that you're comfortable speaking in front of large crowds. So starting small and working your way up little by little is the way to overcome that fear and getting outside of that comfort zone.
And what about people who, are only got a couple of minutes, but what about people who are so gripped with fear that they won't even put their toe in the water? I'm thinking of an episode I had recently with trying to take my 6-year-old swimming on a swimming lesson. Is there anything we could do in those situations?
Well, maybe if you're just really, really gripped with fear, maybe you need to just splash some water on your toe rather than sticking your toe in the water. But maybe you start just a little bit smaller. But I know that my wife used to. She has a terrible fear of speaking in front of crowds. But we used to teach seminars, and so part of the seminars we used to be really heavily involved in the real estate industry, and so she really was very heavily in part of the day-to-day management of our tenants, the day-to-day management of our paperwork and our accounting, and so at the end of each time, we would have her do just a little bit of speaking. And so we had to have her start small like that.
Fantastic. Well, we're going to have to finish there now, Darrell. Thank you so much for being on the show. It's been fascinating to talk to you. I hope you've enjoyed it. To find out more about Darrell, go to www.truewealthuniversity.com. To find out more about future shows and my take on past ones, also sign up for the Be More, Achieve More newsletter at www.bemoreachievemore.com.